What would you do if the walls of a prison became the stage for a forbidden love? This is the story of Alex, a young man who, behind bars, found not just survival, but a dangerous, all-consuming love with the prison's most feared leader. Stay with us to see how this intense and conflicted relationship unfolds. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications. Your support helps us share more gripping stories like this one. Now, let's dive in. Alex Peterson, 22 years old, stood at the gates of the penitentiary, his hands trembling as the heavy doors opened with a loud metallic groan. His pale skin and blonde hair, features that once made him stand out in college crowds, now felt like a beacon of vulnerability among the hardened faces staring at him inside the prison yard. His heart pounded as he clutched the small bundle of belongings issued to him. His new life reduced to a gray uniform and a pair of worn boots. As the guards escorted him past rows of towering cells, voices called out, taunting and jeering. Alex kept his gaze fixed ahead, refusing to show fear. But inside, he was breaking. He wasn't meant for this place. A stupid mistake, a bar fight that escalated, had cost him his freedom and landed him here for 3 years. Fresh meat, someone whispered as he walked by. Alex pretended not to hear. In the far corner of the yard, a group of men stood together, exuding an air of authority. At the center was Dominic "Dom" Hayes, a tall, muscular man in his late 30s, with piercing blue eyes and a reputation that struck fear into everyone. He was the unchallenged leader of the prison, a man whose word was law. Dom's gaze fell on Alex, and for a brief moment, their eyes met. Alex quickly looked away, but the exchange didn't go unnoticed. Later that day, Alex was assigned to his cell. His cellmate, a wiry man named Carter, smirked as he sized him up. "Word of advice, kid," Carter said, leaning against the bunk. "Stay out of Dom's way. He runs this place, and if he notices you, well, let's just say it's better if he doesn't." Alex nodded, though the warning only made him more anxious. That evening, as he sat alone in the mess hall, he felt a presence behind him. The room seemed to grow quieter, the air thick with tension. He turned slowly to find Dom standing there, towering over him. "Alex, right?" Dom said, his voice deep and calm. Alex swallowed hard. Yeah." Dom smirked, his eyes scanning Alex as if sizing him up. "Welcome to my world. Stick with me, and you'll survive. Step out of line, and you won't." Before Alex could respond, Dom walked away, his men following close behind. The encounter left Alex shaken, but there was something in Dom's gaze that lingered in his mind, something more than intimidation. As Alex lay on his bunk that night, staring at the cracked ceiling, he couldn't shake the feeling that his life had just changed forever. He didn't know whether Dom was a threat, a protector, or something far more dangerous. The days inside the penitentiary passed slowly, marked by routine and tension. Alex kept to himself, avoiding eye contact and conflict, but the unspoken connection with Dom lingered like a shadow over him. Every time he crossed the yard or entered the mess hall, he felt Dom's gaze, heavy and unrelenting, tracking his every move. One afternoon during yard time, Alex sat on a bench, pretending to read a worn-out paperback he'd found in the library. He felt a presence before he heard the voice. "You're adapting well," Dom said, sitting down beside him. His tone was calm, almost conversational, but it carried an undercurrent of control. Alex stiffened, unsure of how to respond. "I'm just trying to stay out of trouble." Dom chuckled. Trouble finds everyone in here, Alex. The question is whether you're ready for it when it does. Alex dared to glance at him. There was a strange intensity in Dom's eyes, something more complex than simple dominance. Before he could ask what Dom meant, another inmate approached, a burly man with tattoos covering his arms. "Dom, we've got a problem," the man said, his eyes darting to Alex briefly before focusing back on Dom. Dom stood, his demeanor shifting instantly to one of command. "Stay here," he ordered Alex, his tone leaving no room for argument. Alex watched as Dom walked away, the exchange leaving him rattled. Why was Dom singling him out? And why, despite the fear he felt, was there an undeniable pull toward the man? That evening, Alex returned to his cell, expecting another quiet night. Instead, he found Carter pacing, his expression anxious. "You've got to be careful," Carter hissed. "Dom doesn't take an interest in people unless he wants something." Alex frowned, his frustration bubbling to the surface. "What does he want from me?" Carter sighed, lowering his voice. "Control, loyalty, maybe more. Dom's not the kind of guy you say no to, Alex. And once you're in his orbit, there's no way out." The words left Alex shaken, but they also stirred a defiant spark in him. He wasn't going to let anyone control him, no matter how powerful they were. But that resolve was tested the next day. During a work detail in the laundry room, 2 inmates cornered Alex, their intentions clear from their menacing smirks. "You're the new kid Dom's been eyeing, huh?" one of them sneered. "Let's see what's so special about you." Before Alex could react, the door slammed open, and Dom entered, his presence like a thunderclap. The 2 men froze, their bravado evaporating under Dom's cold glare. "Touch him, and you'll regret it," Dom said, his voice a deadly calm. The men backed away without another word, leaving Alex trembling. Dom stepped closer, his gaze softening slightly as he looked at Alex. "You're under my protection now," Dom said, "but that comes with a price. Stay close to me, and you'll be safe." Alex wanted to refuse, to push back, but the weight of what had just happened silenced him. For now, he nodded, unsure of what he was truly agreeing to. As they left the laundry room, Dom's hand brushed briefly against Alex's arm, a fleeting touch that sent a shiver down his spine. It wasn't just protection Dom was offering. It was something far more complicated, and Alex couldn't decide whether to run from it or embrace it. Days turned into weeks, and Alex found himself pulled deeper into Dom's orbit. The fear he initially felt toward the prison leader had given way to a strange mixture of fascination and unease. Dom wasn't like the other inmates. He commanded respect, but there was a calculated gentleness in how he interacted with Alex that set him apart. One evening, Dom approached Alex in the yard, his tone unusually soft. "Walk with me," he said, gesturing toward the quieter side of the fence. Alex hesitated but followed. As they walked, Dom spoke in a way Alex hadn't expected, about life outside, about choices, and about regrets. "I wasn't always like this," Dom said, his voice low. "I made mistakes, just like you. But the difference is, I let those mistakes define me." Alex frowned. "And now, what defines you?" Dom stopped walking and turned to face him, his piercing blue eyes locking onto Alex's. "I'm still figuring that out," he admitted. "But I know one thing. I don't let people I care about get hurt." Alex's breath caught. The vulnerability in Dom's words was disarming. For the first time, Alex saw the man behind the reputation, and it scared him how much he wanted to understand him. That night, back in his cell, Carter couldn't hold back his curiosity. "You're spending a lot of time with Dom," he said, leaning against the wall. "You need to be careful. People are starting to talk." Alex shook his head, annoyed. "What do you mean, talk?" Carter sighed. "In this place, loyalty can be mistaken for weakness. If they think you're special to Dom, they'll try to use you to get to him." The warning lingered in Alex's mind. He couldn't deny that his relationship with Dom was shifting, but what it was shifting into, he wasn't sure. The following day, during a routine count, an altercation broke out in the yard. Chaos erupted as fists flew and guards struggled to regain control. In the commotion, Alex was shoved to the ground, his heart racing as panic took over. Before he could react, Dom was there, pulling him up and shielding him from the fray. His grip was firm, protective. "You're with me," Dom said, his voice steady despite the chaos. In that moment, Alex realized something profound. Dom wasn't just protecting him because of some unspoken agreement. There was something deeper at play, something neither of them could ignore. The atmosphere in the prison grew tense in the days following the altercation in the yard. Alex couldn't walk through the corridors without feeling the weight of eyes on him, some curious, others hostile. The whispers had started, and Carter's warnings echoed in his mind. One evening, while Alex was in the library, Dom appeared, leaning casually against the doorframe. "You're making people nervous," Dom said with a smirk, his voice low, but teasing. Alex closed the book he wasn't really reading and turned to face him. "I didn't ask for this attention." Dom stepped closer, his presence overwhelming, yet oddly comforting. "No, but it's there, and it's not going away." Alex sighed, running a hand through his blonde hair. "Why me? Why are you doing this?" Dom studied him for a moment before answering. "Because I see something in you. Something this place hasn't destroyed yet. And I'll be damned if I let them take that away." The sincerity in Dom's words left Alex speechless. He wanted to argue, to put up walls, but the truth was, Dom's protection had become more than a shield. It was a lifeline. Later that night, as Alex lay in his bunk, he replayed the conversation in his mind. For the first time, he questioned not just Dom's intentions, but his own feelings. Was he drawn to Dom because of gratitude, or was it something more? The answer came unexpectedly the next day. During another tense moment in the yard, one of Dom's rivals cornered Alex, his tone dripping with menace. "You're just a pretty face," the man sneered. "Dom won't always be there to protect you." Before Alex could react, Dom appeared, his fury palpable. He grabbed the man by the collar and slammed him against the fence. "Touch him again, and you'll regret it," Dom growled, his voice deadly. The other inmates watched in silence as Dom released the man and turned to Alex. Without a word, he guided him away, his hand lingering on Alex's arm just a little longer than necessary. That night, in the safety of his cell, Alex couldn't ignore the truth any longer. Whatever was building between him and Dom wasn't just about survival. It was something far more dangerous and far more real. The tension between Alex and Dom was no longer something they could deny. Every glance, every word exchanged carried an unspoken weight. Alex tried to keep his distance, but the pull toward Dom was irresistible, even if it terrified him. One night, during a lockdown, Dom appeared outside Alex's cell. The dim light cast shadows across his face, but his eyes were piercing, filled with an intensity Alex couldn't look away from. "Can we talk?" Dom asked, his voice softer than Alex had ever heard it. Carter was asleep, so Alex nodded and stepped closer to the bars. Dom leaned in, their faces separated only by the cold steel. "I've been trying to figure this out," Dom admitted. "This, whatever it is between us." Alex's heart raced. He wanted to deny it, to dismiss it as a misunderstanding, but he couldn't. "I don't know what you want from me," Alex whispered. Dom's expression softened, and for a moment he looked almost vulnerable. "I want you to be safe. But it's more than that, Alex. I can't stop thinking about you." Alex felt his chest tighten. The fear he'd carried since his first day in prison was replaced by something entirely different. Hope. But hope in a place like this was dangerous. Before he could respond, footsteps echoed down the hall. Dom straightened, his demeanor shifting back to the hardened leader everyone knew. "This isn't over," he said quietly, before disappearing into the shadows. The following days were a blur for Alex. Every interaction with Dom felt charged, as though they were walking a tightrope over something neither of them was ready to face. But the line they'd been tiptoeing around was about to be crossed. One evening during a work shift in the kitchen, Dom found Alex alone. Without warning, he pulled him into a small storage room, closing the door behind them. "You have no idea how hard this is for me," Dom confessed, his voice raw. "But I can't ignore it anymore." Alex looked up at him, his own walls crumbling. "Neither can I." In the confined space, the weight of their emotions became too much to bear. Dom reached out, his hand brushing against Alex's cheek. For a moment they stayed like that, two men defying the world around them, bound by something they couldn't fully explain. When their lips met, it was both desperate and tender, a release of everything they'd been holding back. In that moment, the prison walls seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them. But as the kiss ended, reality came crashing back. This wasn't just forbidden, it was dangerous. And Alex knew their connection would only lead to more challenges. The kiss changed everything. Alex could no longer deny what was happening between him and Dom. But with that realization came a new layer of fear. In a place like this, intimacy was a weakness that others could exploit. The following days were filled with subtle exchanges, brief touches, stolen glances, but both knew they had to tread carefully. The prison was no place for vulnerability, and their connection had painted a target on Alex's back. One afternoon, while Alex was cleaning the mess hall, two inmates approached him. Their smirks and aggressive body language sent a chill down his spine. "So, you're Dom's favorite now," one of them sneered. "Let's see if you're worth the trouble." Before Alex could react, the men grabbed him, slamming him against the wall. Panic surged through him, but before the situation could escalate, a deep, commanding voice cut through the chaos. "Let him go," Dom barked, his presence filling the room. The men froze, their bravado evaporating under Dom's glare. They released Alex and backed away, muttering curses under their breath. Dom stepped closer to Alex, his expression a mix of anger and concern. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice softer now. Alex nodded, though his hands were still trembling. "I didn't ask for this, Dom." Dom's jaw tightened. "I know, but as long as you're with me, you're a target, and I'm not letting anyone hurt you." That night, Dom called a meeting with his crew, making it clear that Alex was under his protection. The declaration only solidified the connection between them, but it also sent ripples through the prison. Dom's rivals saw Alex as a vulnerability they could exploit. Back in his cell, Alex sat on his bunk, his mind racing. When Dom visited him later that night, the tension between them was palpable. "This isn't just about me anymore," Alex said quietly. "I'm putting you in danger, too." Dom crouched in front of him, his expression unwavering. "You're worth the risk, Alex. I've made my choice." The weight of those words settled over Alex like a warm blanket and a heavy chain all at once. Their bond was undeniable, but the cost of that bond was growing with every passing day. The tension in the prison reached a boiling point. Word had spread about Dom's protection of Alex, and the fragile balance of power was beginning to crack. Rivals saw Alex as an opportunity to weaken Dom's control, and whispers of retaliation filled the air. Alex could feel it everywhere he went, eyes watching, waiting for the moment to strike. Despite the danger, Dom and Alex grew closer. Their connection was undeniable, and in the bleak confines of the prison, it was their only light. But the risks were mounting, and both knew it. One fateful evening, as the inmates were returning to their cells, chaos erupted. A fight broke out in the yard, carefully orchestrated to distract the guards. Alex barely had time to process what was happening before he was dragged into the melee. Hands grabbed him, pulling him into a shadowed corner where a group of Dom's enemies awaited. "You think you're special, huh?" one of them snarled. "You're just a pawn in his game." Alex struggled, but the strength of his captors overwhelmed him. Panic surged as the first punch landed, sending him to the ground. The group surrounded him, their intentions clear. But before they could go further, Dom's voice roared above the chaos. "Let him go, now." The group hesitated, the sheer force of Dom's presence giving them pause. But their leader, a wiry man named Vargas, stepped forward, his expression defiant. "Your little pet doesn't belong here, Dom. You can't protect him forever." Dom's fists clenched, his fury barely contained. "Try me." The guards rushed in, breaking up the fight before it could escalate further. Dom's crew helped Alex to his feet, his face bruised, but his spirit intact. As they were escorted back to their cells, Dom leaned close to Alex. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice low and urgent. Alex nodded, though his hands still shook. "This can't keep happening, Dom. They're never going to stop." Dom's jaw tightened. "Then we make sure they can't touch you again." That night, Dom called a meeting with his closest allies. In the dim light of the cell block, they devised a plan to neutralize Vargas and his crew. It was risky, but Dom was determined to protect Alex at all costs. For the first time, Alex saw the depth of Dom's devotion and the lengths he was willing to go. The following day, Dom's plan unfolded. His crew spread false rumors about Vargas, sowing distrust among his allies. At the same time, Dom confronted Vargas directly, challenging him to a one-on-one fight in the yard. It was a bold move, but Dom's reputation ensured no one would interfere. The fight was brutal. Alex watched from the sidelines, his heart pounding as Dom faced Vargas. Each blow exchanged was a testament to Dom's strength and determination. By the time it was over, Vargas lay on the ground, defeated, and Dom stood victorious. But victory came at a cost. Dom's knuckles were bloodied, his face bruised, but his message was clear. Alex was untouchable. In the days that followed, the tension in the prison began to ease. Vargas and his crew had been silenced, and Dom's control over the prison solidified. But the ordeal had taken its toll on Alex. He couldn't shake the guilt of being the cause of so much conflict. One evening, as they sat together in a quiet corner of the yard, Alex finally voiced his fears. "I'm making your life harder," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "You could have avoided all of this if it weren't for me." Dom turned to him, his expression soft despite the scars on his face. "You think I regret this? Protecting you, fighting for you. It's the only thing that makes sense in this place." Alex's chest tightened. "But why? Why me?" Dom smiled faintly. "Because you remind me of who I used to be. Before all of this, you give me something to fight for, Alex. Something real." The words hit Alex like a wave. In a world where trust was a luxury and vulnerability a weakness, Dom had given him both. And for the first time, Alex felt like he belonged. The days turned into weeks, and though their relationship remained a closely guarded secret, it became the foundation of their survival. They found moments of peace in the chaos, sharing stories of their lives before prison and dreams of a future that seemed impossibly far away. One night, as they sat in the dim glow of their shared silence, Alex reached for Dom's hand. "I don't know what's going to happen," Alex said, his voice steady. "But I know I don't want to face it without you." Dom squeezed his hand gently. "You won't have to." In the confines of the prison, where every day was a battle, their love became a beacon of hope. It was imperfect, dangerous, and fragile, but it was theirs, and for Alex and Dom, that was enough. Even in the darkest places, love can find a way. Alex and Dom's story is a testament to the power of connection and the courage it takes to hold on to hope when the world tries to break you. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with someone who loves powerful, emotional stories. Together, let's keep spreading messages of resilience and love. Thank you for watching.